Hey, this is René, welcome back for another video on this channel. Today I want to show you what I was working on lately, and it is a strategy or idea based on stock trading. Here I traded all of the stocks in the Nasdaq, the US Tech Index, and we can see here a great example. It's just one backtest that generated over 200,000 euro in profit if we would have traded this with a 50,000 euro account in the last around 6 years. So what is this about? Let's have a look. We can see here in the settings already, it is a program that uses my range breakout strategy, because I was thinking about how we can utilize this strategy, which has been very profitable for me so far, and how can we trade it in more markets with a good possibility of being successful. And as you know, if you follow me for a longer time already on the channel, I'm always a big fan of logical ideas, and if we have a look at indices, we can see that they usually go up. So that's why I trade some strategies in indices already following this idea. But also, of course, we can not only trade the index, but we can also trade all of the stocks that make the index. And here, for example, on the screen we can see the US Tech here. It's a great example, and basically most of the time it's just going up. It doesn't matter if we look at the daily chart or the weekly chart or the monthly chart. And of course, I know that this is just the historical performance and the future can be different, but it is a strong bias that we have here. So what did I do? I created a program, and I will show you the source code also for this at the later part in this video. And then I will explain the program a little bit. But what this program does is it basically just takes all of the stocks that make up the US Tech Index, and then every single day it searches for trades in this stock. So let's have a look, for example, just a visualized test for the current year, so we can have a look at how it would look like. So you can see it's showing the US Tech here, but as soon as there are the first signals, it will also show all of the other charts here, because these are all of the different stocks that we trade. So basically all of the stocks in the US Tech Index. And here we can see, for example, the first trade is Nvidia. So if we open the Nvidia chart here, we can see beautifully that let me show you the settings one more time that I use here. So you can see in my inputs, I use the trading range, or the range for the range. It's the range breakout EA, so obviously we need a range. It's from 16 p.m. to 18 p.m. or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is necessary because, of course, I use the server time of my broker, IC Trading here, and therefore the markets open at 16:35. So actually we could also use 16:35, but I use 16 here and until 18. So the first 1.5 hour of every day we take as an opening range for the stocks, and then we trade a maximum of 4 hours, because at 10 p.m. the trades will be closed. So let's have a look again at the chart here. So yeah, here we can see the first trading day is the 2nd January 2025, and we can see at 16:35 the market opens. Then we do see the range here. This was the highest point, and then I coded it so that if there's a close of a 1 minute bar above the highest point or below the lowest point of a range, then we will open a position, and the stop loss is 1 times the range as a factor. It's a pretty simple strategy, and then there's no trade management. So basically here, if we speed it up, we can just wait until the day ends, and then the trade will be closed at 10 p.m. and that's it. It will either be closed at the price that we see at 10 p.m. or it hits the stop loss, and that's it. And yeah, basically you can see, like, every single day it will trade a few stocks, but only the stocks, of course, that have a breakout. Here's another example in Nvidia, but we can see also, for example, I don't even know what this company is, but here we also see a trade on this day, and it's always the same. Like, here's the highest point of the range. We have the buy breakout. Oh, by the way, I was saying we also trade sell, but that's not true. We only trade buy trades because, as I said, because of this long bias. But yeah, this is pretty much done every single day. So we wait for buy breakouts in all of the stocks here, and then we trade if there's a buy trade out. And yeah, as I shown before, this would have been quite really successful in the last about 6-7 years, I don't know, from 2019. And yeah, for the current year 2025, it would not have been profitable, but in the long run it was really profitable. So this is the idea. And also I will show you the code in a second. And also before I do that, I want to have a look at my server, because here I also did some backtests, and here you can see yeah, I also did some optimizations, and then I did some backtests. And here you can see if we have a look at the backtesting results, I was switching from the report here to the deals. We can see a lot of the profits are actually eaten by the commission. So if we would find a way to lower the trading commission, the profit would be way higher. And this is traded with a different risk, so that's why the profit here is smaller. But yeah, overall I just wanted to say that a lot of the profit is yeah, eaten by the commission. So if we find a way to reduce this, the strategy would be even more profitable. But yeah, the current year is also over. So now let me show you the source code. So you can also learn how to create these kind of strategies where you trade different symbols. For example, all of the stocks in a stock market index. So this will be a little bit more of a nerdy topic now, but yeah, I will just quickly show you the source code or explain the structure of the code. I will not explain, of course, every single line. This is a little bit more for advanced programmers now. So what I did here is I just included the array object and the trade classes here. Then I create my own class, which I usually call CSetup. It inherits from CObject, of course, and then we do have a bunch of I usually, if I create programs for just testing purposes, I make it as simple as possible, and for this reason I make a lot of the variables, for example, public, but I think actually all of this could be private, except for the maybe the constructor, but yeah, the rest can be pretty much private. So yeah, what we see here is we have a bunch of private variables, and if you know the source code of the range breakout expert advisor, or how I code it usually, you can also find a detailed tutorial for this on my channel. You know that I had a bunch of global variables when I wrote the expert advisor for one single chart or for one single symbol, and here of course all of these variables are now just private variables in the CSetup class. So we kind of have the same variables, but not on a global scale, but on the class level here, or then later on the object level if we create instances of this class. Then we do have a constructor that is of course public, and we do have the event handling functions. They also need to be public because we will call them in the MT5 event handling functions. Then more private functions, and here the same logic applies that also applies for the variables. These are basically the same functions that I had for the single chart range breakout expert advisor on a global level, and here it just moved to the class scope. So that's the only different basically. So it's really simple to take any strategy that you created for one single chart and make it a multi-symbol or multi-chart strategy by just creating a class like the CSetup class and move all of the global components to the class. And you can basically apply it to any strategy. It's really a concept that is very, very basic and can be applied to a lot of strategies. Then here's the constructor. Here I just initialized the M symbol variable with a symbol that is passed as a parameter here. Then we have the onInit event that I don't really use here. Of course, you could add code here, but I wrote this program only for testing purposes, so I don't care about like program security. But if you would write this for actually like practical use, then maybe you want to add code to like restore a previous state of the program or whatever. Then in the onTick event here, first of all, I want to make sure that I don't process unnecessary ticks, because the stocks are only traded after 1635. And then we calculate the times, and this is again, this is the exact same stuff that I did for the single chart range breakout EA. It's just moved to the class here. So we calculate the times. I can show you this function also in a second, but it's just updating all of the variables here, of course, like the time variables. Then we do check for position closure after the position end time. Here it's, this is actually closing all of the positions. Yeah, we could also check here, for example, if the position symbol is equal to M symbol. So we could make sure that we only trade the symbols of this stock that we are looking at. But yeah, in the testing environment, it's not really necessary here. And we could also add the magic number and more stuff like that. Then here we get the close price of the last bar and the previous bar. This is to check if there was a breakout, because here we check if we are greater than the end time of the range and smaller of the closing time of the trades. If we are in this window, then we check if the range was not calculated yet. And if it's not calculated yet, then we just calculate the range. And then we check if there was no trade yet. And make sure to realize that all of these variables here are variables that are declared in the class. So every instance of this class will have its own variables. And this is really good, because then for every single, in this case, stock, it will just check the counter and stuff like that. Yeah, and then we check if the price of the last 1 minute bar jumped above the range high, and if the price of the previous 1 minute bar was below the range high. This is our breakout or entry signal. Then we check if there was no trade on this specific day, and then we just we basically just open a position. What I did here is, before I open a position, I want to check if the price of this stock is above 80. This is at this point kind of a random number, and you could also say 100 or whatever you like. I will explain why I do it in a second. And then here I also check if the spread is less than 0.01% of the price. The reason for these two checks is I don't want to create, or I don't want to open trades that have a very large quantity. Because usually if you trade stocks or US stocks, you pay for the amount of stocks. So it's not based on the actual like trading volume or the amount of money that you want to trade, as it is usually for if we trade Forex and lots. But here it's different, and it's based on the stock. So if I trade one stock, I will pay 2 cents. If I pay 100 stocks, I will pay $2 for the trade. And it means basically that if the price of the stock is very small, then the result would be that we trade more of this stock, because the risk here in this expert advisor is based on a distance from the entry price to the stop loss. Yeah, and that basically just means that if the stock price is very small or very little, then we do trade more stocks, which means more commission. So lesser chance to be even profitable with this trade. And then here also check if the spread is unrealistically high, because this also means it will lower the chances of success dramatically. So I do these two checks, and then I open the position if it's fine, execute a buy position, and update the counter, of course. Okay, we could theoretically do the same for sell trades, but I commented this out because I don't want to trade sell trades here because of the long bias. So this brings us to the other private functions here. Of course, the execute buy function. It will basically just execute a buy position. We open at the current price, we calculate the stop loss, the take profit, and then we calculate the lots, and then we just open the position. Same theoretically for sell, but as I said, we don't use it here. Then calculate times function, as I said before. Here basically we just calculate the times. So we make use of a MQL datetime structure, update the hour and the minute with the input variables that we will see later on, and then we just check if there's a new day. Then we reset all of these private variables, and then we also update basically just the time for the start of the range, the end of the range, and when we close the positions. Then we have the calculate range function, very similar to what we saw in the single chart range breakout expert advisor. Here make sure to realize that whenever I do something here in the class, I use the M symbol private variable to identify what chart or what symbol we want to trade. If we would use underscore symbol, as I usually do for single chart expert advisors, it will cause problems, because then we would always use the chart symbol, but instead we want to use the value in the M symbol variable here. So we get the highs, the lows in the range. And we update the range. I could also add code to make the range visible, but in the strategy test site it's not really possible, so I skipped this part. Then this is a function to count the trades. Actually, I think it's not even needed here. Yeah, it's not even needed in this program, so never mind. And then here we have a function to close all of the positions. Very straightforward. We just loop the positions and we close the ones that have the same symbol as M symbol. Here's a function to calculate the lots. Also very straightforward. Here it's really important to always use the point and digits for the symbol that we currently look at. And this, of course, again, taken from the M symbol variable. But the rest is the same as we always do. We just calculate the lots. And then here we have functions to round the lots. We have functions to round up, like prices, and round down prices. All very simple, basic stuff. Here, just important that we use M symbol. And yeah, you could also like replace round up and round down with normalized double and round to 2 digits. These are functions that I created because sometimes if you trade futures, for example, or CFDs on futures, you have tick sizes that are, for example, 0.5 or 0.25. And yeah, then these are all of the functions. So this is basically the whole class. And then we go on with the input variables. This is basically the exact same stuff that we saw for the single chart expert advisor, the range breakout EA. Just a bunch of variables to identify what like ranges we want to trade, what risk we want to take. And then we create 2 global variables. I usually like to create the C-trade object as a global variable. You could also use local variables for this. And then a C-array object array, which I call setups. And this is important because here we will put all of the stocks or charts we want to trade or symbols. So in the onInit, like the event handling function of the MetaTrader 5, we just clear the setups array. And then we can add whatever we want. Here I used the get Nasdaq function, and the get Nasdaq function is really, really simple. It will just get me all of the stocks. And this is, by the way, a manual process. I listed all of the stocks of the Nasdaq with the exact same names that my broker uses. Here it's, for example, aapl.nas, apple.nasdaq pretty much. And yeah, I will do this for all of the stocks in the Nasdaq, which are, I don't even know, like 100, I guess, or 50, I don't know. Look it up, and then I just add it to my setups array. And it's always a C setup object instance. I also wrote this for the Dow, if I want to trade the Dow stocks. But yeah, that's how I do it. So here in the onInit, I will get the Nasdaq or whatever stocks I want to trade or whatever symbols I want to trade. Here I also did it to add manually the some currencies. It's also possible, of course. And then I will call the onInit for all of the setups. Here it's actually not really needed because the onInit function in this case, in this program, is empty, but you could do some meaningful stuff also. And then we go to the onTick, and that's actually already the end of the program. So it's a really simple and straightforward program. I kept it simple because I just use it for testing, and every complexity that you add just makes the test slower usually. I could probably even make it more efficient, but yeah. Here just check for a new 1 minute bar. This is to also speed up the testing process. So everything is only done once per 1 minute bar here. So every 1 minute bar at the beginning, I loop through all of the setups and call the onTick event function of all of the setups. And this is just to calculate the swap because it's not calculated correctly in MetaTrader 5 if it's a percentage swap based on an annual percentage. But I explained this also in another video already in detail on this channel. And that's basically it. Then here just the get Nasdaq function follows and the get Dow. So this is the whole code. I explained everything now. So this is basically how you can structure such a program and that you can then use to create a portfolio or strategy portfolio trading expert advisor that you can also use for testing. And as I showed before, or as I showed here in a bunch of backtests, it can be really profitable, but also, of course, here are some problems with extremely high costs it might make sense to trade this with a different broker. For example, I was trading to have a look at this for interactive brokers, could be really interesting because there the trading costs are cheaper, but also the spread is a little bit higher. So this is something I'm trying to figure out now. But yeah, I just want to show you what I'm working on. Maybe it's interesting for some of you guys. And yeah, if you have questions, let me know in the comments. I will not post the source code of this because I believe in that you should do some work on your own and that you should not trade or test. I mean, you can test, but you should not trade programs that you do not understand. So don't ask for the source code. I will not post it, but you can ask if you have like single points in the program that you want to that you have a question about. So make sure to ask me if you have any questions. And yeah, that was just a little insight. So hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.